Ignite to impact.
Hi, this is Dr. Geneva, and welcome to Ignite to Impact, where we bring you these stories of leaders, folk, everyday folk, celebrities who are making a difference, who are unleashing their impact to try to make a difference in people's lives and in the world. And if you're an entrepreneur or thinking about becoming one, my next guest has the answers to achieve your dreams. Dr. ZaLonya Allen, who's president and CEO of the National Entrepreneurs Association. And before she founded that organization, she was the creator, developer of the Southeast Michigan Entrepreneurs Association. And she's a whirlwind, fabulous speaker. She knows her stuff. And I'm just so delighted to talk to you today, Dr. ZaLonya. How are you?
I'm good, and thank you for having me.
It is phenomenal to have you. So let's just jump right into it. What's your best advice for entrepreneurs?
My best advice for entrepreneurs is to get around other entrepreneurs because the energy rubs off, and it's a long journey. There are a lot of questions you're going to have, a lot you cannot anticipate. So I just find being around people who are already walking that path will help you so much in terms of information and inspiration. And you have to be really motivated. So that's going to help you stay motivated. So if you're starting out, or even if you're already in business, I would say find entrepreneurial groups, small business groups like the National Entrepreneurs Association, and just get around others who are passionate about entrepreneurship.
You know, that's a great piece of advice, and it seems so simple, too. I know that as I made my transition from being in the nonprofit world for so many years to becoming an entrepreneur, I found joining groups and being around others who were in business made all the difference in the world, if nothing else, because the language is different. Mm-hmm. You know, the language is different. The bottom line is different. You know, if you're a nonprofit, your bottom line is the mission, the social mission. When you're an entrepreneur and in business, your bottom line's about that money and about your stockholders. You know, it's just different. So how do you find other entrepreneurs?
Well, I just want to elaborate on that difference that you just spoke about.
Oh, yeah, please.
One of the big differences is mindset. So when you're a 9-to-5 employee, you're going in, you're taking directions, or you have a job description, and you're going in to fill that job description for someone else. If something goes wrong, there's other people that perhaps are, or you can blame it on or say they're responsible as well. But when you're an entrepreneur, you have to have that mindset that I am 100% responsible for everything that happens within my business, because if something goes wrong, you have to take that financial hit. So there's a lot more responsibility. So I always tell entrepreneurs, go in with that mindset that it's all up to me. And even if you don't feel you caused the problem, you have to empower yourself by always going back to, what can I do about this? How can I correct this situation?
Yes.
Or how could I have prevented this situation? Because you empower yourself that way. Mm-hmm. So the mindset is different, and that's one of the reasons you have to be around other entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm. Again, ZaLonya, my own experience, you just getting at my heart and my soul in terms of what I've experienced and still experiencing, though I think I'm growing more. But, in the nonprofit world, when you 9 to 5, a W-2, that check come every 2 weeks.
That's right.
But this is a whole new world, and as you said, the mindset has to be different. So for me, it's been a transition, a change in terms of the language, in terms of the mindset, and you've been able, what you just said has kind of quantified that for me, because sometimes I wonder, well, what is it? How do you become successful? What are the key steps in this new world?
Well, you have to have something that you're passionate about. And that passion is what's going to drive you. Mm-hmm. Because if you have to have a why. So I always ask myself, when I'm having a challenge, why am I doing this? And that why motivates me. And it's because I'm passionate about people having the ability to control their own destiny, to earn however much they want to earn, to live without limits. So that idea, it just drives me. So whether you're baking cookies or designing websites or whatever your venture is, there has to be a strong why behind it. There has to be that passion that's going to cause you to keep going when you're challenged or there are obstacles and you feel like giving up. So I think that's number one. Mm-hmm. It can't be something that you're doing because you saw another guy do it and he was successful and you want to be successful too. Mm-hmm. There has to be a story behind why you're doing what you do. And I think just having that passion and ability to persevere through challenges is going to help you become successful. Mm-hmm. With my organization, I've seen a lot of people after about a year or a year and a half, they just throw in the towel and get a job. Mm-hmm. So, but if you're passionate, you'll pursue it for years. Mm-hmm. And you hear people say, well, they don't do it for the money. They would do it for free. And then eventually the money comes.
Is that true? Do you believe that's true? Does that happen? Because, I've been told that. And, I've been in a career in nonprofits where, it was all about passion. Now, I was an executive and I ran organizations. It was like running a small business. So I know all the good management techniques and used them and ran successful organizations. So I had that side. But the bottom line was about the social mission. And it was a situation where the money did come because that check came in every 2 weeks. So how is it? And so talk to me about how that plays out as an entrepreneur.
Well, as an entrepreneur, you have to eat. You have to pay the bills. Mm-hmm. So you have to make sure that you're financially secure. That may be putting aside 6 months to a year's worth of income so that you can live if the money's not coming in. So, yes, you want to do something that you're passionate about that you would do for free, but you have to be responsible. You may have a family that you have to take care of. And so that's a big part of what we do. We often have speakers come in and talk about different ways you can fund your business. Mm-hmm. There's coaching that you can get where people can help you break down your finances so you know how much you need to set aside so that you can take care of your financial responsibilities. But I know, like when I started speaking part-time, I did it for free. Mm-hmm. But I had other sources of income. And then eventually I started getting paid speaking engagements, and then eventually I went full-time. Mm-hmm. So I do see people who love what they do enough to do it for free, and they're going to do it whether they get paid or not because they have another source of income. But that's another thing I would recommend. If you're starting a business, try to find another source of income or start it part-time while you work full-time. But you have to pay the bills.
Mm-hmm. So, you were a speaker, traveled all across the country, and you've also founded a national organization where the whys behind, the why behind you being a speaker and the why behind you founding this national organization the same?
No. When you become a speaker, you're what I call a solopreneur. I mean, you can go print up some business cards and put up a website and say, I'm a speaker. Whereas when you start a business, there's a lot more involved. So you have to register the business, determine what your entity is going to be, if you're going to be a DBA or a LLC or a corporation. You most likely will have to purchase some type of insurance to protect yourself. So there's a lot more involved. So about 20 years ago, I decided I wanted to become a professional speaker, and I did that. And then fast forward to about 2011, 2010, I decided I wanted to start a business here locally in Michigan. And there were a couple of other people involved. And so it was a different animal, and I didn't know what I was doing. We had to set up an LLC, and we had to get insurance and eventually payroll. And so I said, well, if I'm struggling, I'm sure there are a lot of other people struggling to figure out this puzzle. So why don't we have an event where we can invite a lot of resource providers to sit on a panel and talk to entrepreneurs and answer questions about how you do it. And from that came the association, because we wanted to do something ongoing where entrepreneurs could get together and share war stories, information, resources. And so SEMEA was launched in 2011. And then this year we decided to launch a national network, which is the National Entrepreneurs Association.
So how did you do it? And how do entrepreneurs do it? Do they, do you believe that every entrepreneur needs to have a business plan? Do they need to have goals? Talk a little bit about how entrepreneurs do it.
Yes. So every entrepreneur should have a business plan because it's sort of a roadmap. It's you charting out how you're going to make this happen. And if you ever decide to get funding or you decide to enter a pitch competition, which is another way to get funded, you have to have a business plan. And if you decide to get an investor or a partner, people have to be able to have a detailed description of your business and how you're going to get there. So I would start with joining an organization, getting around other entrepreneurs, writing out your business plan. If you don't know how to do that, you can hire people to do it for you, some charge, or you can go online and find a template that will basically tell you step by step what to fill in for each section. And then once you get a business plan, it's a good idea to get a mentor, someone who's been down that road, and that can kind of guide you a little bit. But as far as marketing and getting out there, there's so many different ways to do that now, and it's going to depend on what type of business or venture you're trying to get going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you give us an example?
Well, social media is really popular. But again, that's going to depend on the industry, because we have some financial entrepreneurs, we have some that are in insurance, and they have regulations. But I think for most entrepreneurs, you can utilize Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram just to get your name out there. A lot of entrepreneurs are able to attract most of their business from social media. An example would be coaches or consultants. Mm-hmm. We have a book coach in our organization who gets 90% of her business from Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you're just joining us, I'm talking with Dr. ZaLonya Allen, who's the president and CEO of the National Entrepreneurs Association, and she's given us some great tips if you're an entrepreneur. ZaLonya, tell us about, any business advice you would get would say you got to set goals. You got to write down your goals. You got to set them, and you got to have goals so that most people look at goals, setting goals, as a management or business management technique. I tend to think that, you need goals for all areas of your life, and that you can use them, and they're good to use, and they can help you down a path that makes sense and leads to success. What's your view on goal setting?
Goal setting is huge because your mind needs a target, and when you set a goal, you give it a target. So I believe in setting short-term and long-term goals. Short-term would be those things you want to accomplish in the next 30 days or so. Long-term goals would be a year or more out. Mm-hmm. And it's important to write your goals down, and it's important to review them every day. So I would suggest writing out your short-term and long-term goals and posting them somewhere where you can see them, maybe in your bedroom or the bathroom mirror. And that just keeps it at the forefront of your mind, because if you set a goal and you don't have it recorded anywhere, there's so much going on today that you can get sidetracked. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And even with writing it down, I find that I can get sidetracked. They call it putting out fires. Like something mm-hmm. will come up during the day, and you're off on something else. Mm-hmm. And before you know, you've forgotten about your goal. But that's huge because it gives you a target, something to go for, something to focus on, and what you focus on expands.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's some really great advice. Do the entrepreneurs that are in your association or that are they using this goal setting process successfully?
Yes, I can speak for the entrepreneurs that I've masterminded with. Mm-hmm. So as part of Southeast Michigan Entrepreneurs Association, we formed mastermind groups. And for those who aren't familiar, that's when you get together in a small group of 8 to 10, and they're people who are on the same path. So for us, obviously, it was entrepreneurship, and we would meet once a month in person at my office, and we would set goals. Mm-hmm. And we set short and long-term goals and discussed them with each other and held each other accountable. So for the people who use goal setting, it would seem to me they were more successful. Like mm-hmm. some of the people in our group, their businesses just took off and became multi-million-dollar businesses. Mm. And those were the people who applied themselves. They came to every single meeting. They took mm-hmm. notes. They utilized the techniques. But then you had those who, they would miss meetings, or they would come back, and we had what's called progress reports where you would explain what you achieved from month to month. So you have to put in the work is what I'm saying. It's not enough to just go to meetings or hang out with entrepreneurs. Whatever you learn from those meetings, you have to go back and apply it. And I think that's the difference between becoming very successful or failing is putting in the work. It's a lot of work. But, again, going back to that passion, if you're passionate about it, you don't mind the work as much.
So it's that sweat equity. You got to put in the work. You got to do the work. You got to do the do. And what keeps you excited every morning when you jump out of bed, maybe even keeps you up at night, is that passion, that why. That's so.
Yeah.
So ZaLonya. So what are the biggest mistakes entrepreneurs make?
Well, I think it would be starting a business based on how much money you think you can make, or based on what someone else is doing, and not based on what you're passionate about.
Okay.
So one of the things that we do in our association is we speak to high school students to let them know that entrepreneurship is a viable career path. And even if you start your career, have a little venture on the side where you have another stream of income coming in. So we developed a questionnaire or survey to help students figure out what they're passionate about and what they're good at. And we have them complete that, and then we go through it with each one. And then we give them ideas. Okay, you're passionate about writing. That's a valuable skill to somebody because a lot of people hate writing. So maybe you can become an editor or a freelance writer or a book author. And we give them ideas for businesses that they can start. So the same can be applied for an adult. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you shared that technique, because they're really, it almost seems like those simple steps, that kind of 1, 2, 3, that you think about what you're good at, you think about what you enjoy. But it's not that easy. And then you start them at the young age thinking about that. So that's great. And then you can...
I've had people say to me that they're not passionate about anything. So it may seem simple, but I think some people have never sat down to think about, what am I good at? What do people ask me to do? What do I get compliments on? What type of business would I like to start? And as a result, they just live their life copying other people. And they never really find their true passion. And I see it a lot. But I think when you finally find that thing that's meaningful to you, or you feel like you found your purpose, that really drives you. And then it's fun. It's fun to do the work.
Yes, to put in that sweat equity. So, Dr. ZaLonya, you're around entrepreneurs all the time. I mean, all the time. What are they talking about? What's the conversation today?
So, one of the big conversations is funding.
Okay.
I think a lot of people think if I just had enough money, I can make this work. So that's a big conversation. Whenever we do meetings on access to capital, they're well attended.
Okay.
So that's important for entrepreneurs to think about before getting into business, not waiting until you're in the middle of it and then trying to figure it out. Entrepreneurs are talking about getting good help or staff, people, because when you're passionate about something, it's hard to let go of it, or I guess I'm trying to say there's a little bit of controlling involved,
Yes.
where they may not want to delegate that to other people. And that's a big conversation, how you have to be able to delegate to grow. So you have to find quality people and trust them with your baby so that you can continue to expand.
And do you find that same conversation about access to capital and getting good help the same between women and men? So would female entrepreneurs and male entrepreneurs be having that same kind of conversation, or are there differences?
They would have that same conversation, but women have challenges that are unique to women when starting a business. There's still the conversation of access, of equity. For whatever reason, women entrepreneurs do not earn as much on average as men. I still think there's some issues with women being able to get to the table and to get the same types of contracts that men get. And as a result, we have women entrepreneurial organizations trying to address some of those issues. But my strategy is a little bit more unique because I want men in our organization, because when we build those relationships, they can open some doors for us. So we're all sitting at the table together, and I can go up to them and say, hey, I'm having a challenge with this corporation or getting sponsorship. Can you help me with that? And because we have that relationship, they're willing to help open that door.
Do entrepreneurs, is any part of the entrepreneurial conversation these days about legacy? I mean, and what I mean by that is that, obviously, you work real hard, you're doing your business, you're trying to be successful, making that money. And then there's, what do you do for the community, or how do you, share what you've learned, your knowledge, your wisdom with those coming up behind you? Is there any conversation about legacy within entrepreneurial groups?
Yes. So for our association, what we decided to do was team up with Junior Achievement. So they contact us often to send speakers out into the community to speak at high schools and to speak at youth events to either share our story or teach them how to become entrepreneurs. So I just did one of these about 2 weeks ago, and I had a great time with the students. They were really interested. I talked about my journey as an entrepreneur, and they had lots of questions. And then another school I spoke with about a month ago, one of the young ladies asked if she could be an intern. So she's going to be at our event next week, job shadowing.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah,
okay. I love it.
It's important.
Yeah, I love that connection, because I think it's all part of being successful in life. It's important to have that as an area of your life where you set some goals around giving beyond yourself. So I'm glad. Yeah, that's right. So I'm glad to hear that entrepreneurs are having that conversation. Dr. ZaLonya Allen, in this short amount of time, you have given such rich nuggets. I love it. And you have just shared with us, almost everything an entrepreneur could want to know about. And so I appreciate you. I love you sharing your story with us, how you moved from speaker to president and CEO of a national organization that's trying to help entrepreneurs develop a plan for achieving their dreams. Thanks so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me, and I'm always happy to talk about entrepreneurship. It's my passion.
Oh, I can hear it. Thank you. It's your why. Thank you so much, Dr. ZaLonya Allen, for being on Ignite to Impact.
Ignite to Impact.